Let me see.
Right? Look, that energy could be put to a real fucking good use if you started using it to try and deplatform rightoids. Fucking real good use, right? But they won't do that because the rightoids aren't engaging with them. There's no argument to be had there. And you shouldn't be fucking engaging with them. You should be directing your parasocial dweebers to go and deplatform them. There's not enough profit in it. There's not enough drama. We don't do that. There's not enough profit in it.
I asked you to come in here and talk to me about, you know, like things that you had said in chat. Now it just feels like we're preaching about how people are only doing things to cover their bottom line and that nobody actually cares what they're talking about, and the degree to which they're talking about it and the substance with which they're discussing these topics is actually harmful to, you know, like greater causes or something like this. Like, this just feels so.
It's harmful to the environment that we exist in here on Twitch. It's the toxicity that it fucking promotes. The people who get fucking harassed off the platform, basically, right? By this constant need to be punching people who are ideologically very, very similar to you.
Can you come up with an example of somebody who's been punched off the platform unjustly, you think?
There are numerous people who've had their audiences tanked, who've like retreated from the fucking public eye because they can't deal with the stress of the constant fucking harassment. Yeah.
Can you come up with an example?
Sure. Aidenwood.
Okay. I don't really know the story of Aidenwood. I know that she did some puzzles. She did some fundraising for local food banks and stuff. That was pretty cool. But I know that
okay. Look, I'm sorry to jump in, right? I don't want to jump in too much because I just want to play video and have some fun. But look, I've got to be honest with you, okay? I don't know. I don't want to speak ill of Aiden. Aiden seemed like a perfectly nice person, although I think it doesn't matter. Look, sometimes, yeah, people have harassment and stuff like that. Sometimes people make fucking boring content, okay? It is what it is. I said it, okay? So sometimes this thing of like, oh, they got chased off the platform, their content was shit and no one watched them. Like, it is what it is, you know?
I don't know. She pretty consistently had like 50, 60 viewers, but it
doesn't.
doesn't.
We can't.
Did you grow?
I don't know. We would have to ask her if that was worth it for her, like in order to complete this analysis that she was chased off the platform.
Okay, fine, but like you're focusing on the specific words without like recognizing that it is a fact that people suffer a tremendous amount of fucking harassment on this platform for what are essentially completely fucking pointless differences, right? Like an undue amount of harassment, and that harassment is generally driven by some sort of like parasocial attachment to one streamer or another.
Sure.
Yeah. So that happens, right? And it's a stress on people's fucking mental health. It continues the just general toxic fucking.
I wasn't called out.
It sets up these stupid.
What are you talking about? Are you saying I'm boring, Strophium? You know I'm not fucking boring. Fuck you.
Toxicity after toxicity. So we are actually responsible in a certain way for the environment in which we exist and the people with whom we're associating on a daily basis, right? I posted a thing yesterday. I forget what it was exactly. It was like anti-fascism is good. Actually, don't at me, something like that, right? And someone replied with some dipshit comment about, yeah, I agree, except not when it's combined with totalitarianism, which all anti-fascists are totalitarians, so, or something like that, right? And somebody else started like hammering into them. And my first response was just like, they're just a dipshit. Like, fucking leave it, right? Because I don't see the benefit in causing like mental fucking distress over a dumb fuck opinion like that, right? It's an opinion that a whole bunch of like random centristy type people have. That like these people aren't like broadly crazily harmful or anything, right? And I don't want more toxicity in the space in which I exist. I want, you know. If you want to be toxic, direct it where it's deserved. Yeah, and there's plenty of fucking places where it's deserved. And I feel like we spend all our energy fucking over people where it's not really deserved.
Okay. Can I jump in here? I hate the idea of what you said about the not criticizing people on the left or not punching left so much. Because the idea, the reason why people get so angry at people on the left, the reason why we get so critical of people on the left is because of the things that Supreme was saying. We see things that are happening in the world. They are descriptive facts about the world, and people that agree with us, like 90% of the way, 95% of the way, right, aren't going that extra 5%, seeing what the actual world
100% agree with you.
No. Because
yeah,
the reason, well, sure, yeah, it is frustrating because the only reason that they're not 100% in lockstep is because they're looking at the world in a way that actually is not living in reality, right? They're seeing a completely different world and a completely different things that are happening on video than everybody else in the world, right? And when they do that, it makes everybody on the left look like fucking lunatics. Do you not recognize this?
Like what?
Like you said earlier, the thing about Rosenbaum reaching for his gun and all of the stuff that you said about the
couldn't
video,
be perceived
right?
as a threat.
Couldn't be perceived as a threat, right? When I think
didn't
that
say
anybody
it couldn't be perceived as a threat. What the fuck are you talking
wouldn't
about?
reasonably be perceived by Rittenhouse as a threat to his life.
As an imminent threat to life. Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be? As a 17-year-old,
in the American legal definition, I also made that specification, right? I think it's possible that Rittenhouse could have. I don't know what's going on in his brain. I think it's very possible that Rittenhouse could have assessed the situation and thought, "Oh fuck, I'm going to die." But that's not the legal standard. And also, I don't really care about the actual fucking legal standard. That's just my assessment of what the legal standard is, right? But like, if you think that like his potential fear for his life meets the legal standard of imminent fear of imminent threat to life, fine. I don't really care.
Okay. Are we talking about the legal standard or not? Because I felt like we were talking about like just the facts of the case, like the fact that he might feel like, you know, someone's trying to fucking kill him, and that's why he like turned around and shot.
Anybody could feel like that at any time. It doesn't meet the,
do you not think that him being in that situation might have met those criteria for feeling, you know, like the guy might have been trying to fucking kill him, chasing him down at full sprint?
Yeah, somebody's chasing you down and they reach for your weapon. I feel like that is reasonable to feel threatened.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. To be clear, the reason that we can't get to whether or not Kyle should be lionized as a hero is because we're stuck on this point. Like, in this
stuck on what point? I literally just agreed with them that it is possible that he thought that, right? I don't think it I don't think it meets the legal standard. The defense don't think it meets the legal standard. We'll see what the jury thinks. Whatever, right? This isn't something to get hung up on.
The legal standard of
okay. So if that's the case,
imminent threat of imminent threat to life, yeah, that's that's their argument in their closing statement, and also that like Carl Rittenhouse provoked Rosenbaum, right? So those were the arguments in there.
Sorry, the defense is arguing that.
Sorry, the prosecution.
Okay.
So really quick, so if that's the case, if you can agree with that, then why is it so bad for people to say that on the internet? You're saying that plays into right-wing narratives that he probably felt in danger of his life?
I mean, if you think he probably felt in danger of his life, it's fine. I don't care. I don't understand your objection here at all.
My objection is, it seemed like when I was listening just a couple of minutes ago, you were making it sound unreasonable that lefties would be talking about this in any capacity when we're watching these things. We shouldn't be watching it, number one. Number two, we shouldn't be talking about it. And number three, we shouldn't be right-wingers, right?
You came in to say that actually, yes, we should be berating lefties for their opinion if their opinion is demonstrably untrue given what's like on film and that everybody can see. And we've basically just kind of agreed to disagree on whether it like meets the legal standard. And we'll just have to, see what the fucking jury decides.
This is not the strongest example. So the idea of propagating the message, if you're a journalist with a check mark on Twitter and you're propagating the message that Kyle was kneeling and firing into a crowd of black people or something to this effect.
Control bursts.
Yeah, there you go. Control
so
bursts.
Who's been doing that?
I don't remember the exact journalist that tweeted this shit out.
Okay, right, I've got an example for you because this one fucking pisses the fucking shit out of me, right? There's like some fucking liberal, is it someone Presley? she's like a politician. Anyway, she did this tweet, and this was last year, to be fair, but she said, "Get your headlines." It was such smug moral arrogance, right? Get your headlines right. Actually, what happened was a white supremacist went there and murdered protesters that were, fighting for anti-racism, and it's like, appreciate it was before the details came out, but Rosenbaum was a fucking, some fucking crazy pedo dude who apparently has got no link to BLM, and he just rocked up and was causing a ruckus because he didn't have anywhere to stay that night, and it's like, why are you trying to fucking lionize? Like, I'm not saying you have to, denounce the guy or whatever, but why lionize someone like that and make out like he's some fucking paragon of virtue when it's just not the reality of what happened?
I mean, you say this happened over a fucking year ago. I don't know why we'd still be talking about it, because I don't see any prominent.
Because the narrative
because the case is going on right now. That's why we're talking about it.
Sorry.
I don't know why we'd be going on specifically about that now, about like having a go at people trying to lionize Rosenbaum, because I don't think that that's a particularly prevalent narrative. I've definitely not seen it.
Oh, fuck, I think pretty much is a massively prevalent narrative.
Pretty much every fucking commentator I've followed's been like, yeah, Rosenbaum, like, fucking piece of shit child molester.
That is absurd. No, sorry, that is a prevalent narrative, and it's consistent. And it's like it's a constant narrative.
That Rosenbaum is like some kind of fucking hero.
Well, okay, that's part of it, but the bigger part is the fact that people try and propagate this narrative that, he went there and killed a bunch of people that were protesting for BLM, right? And that's just not true. That's not a factual reality of what happened.
And they say Rosenbaum was just like this helpless guy who just got out of the hospital, right? It's one of the things they say.
Yeah, exactly. They make out like he was this poor, this poor downtrodden person. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't have sympathy for the pedo shit really, because that's kind of fucked up. But the mental health stuff, I've got some sympathy for, and it's like, yeah, sure, I have some sympathy for that, but it contextualizes the interaction that happened. If this guy's got mental health concerns, that maybe he was aggressive, but that gets totally left out the narrative, and instead he's some fucking the white MLK, right, going down there to like sort out all this.
Nobody is portraying Rosenbaum as the white MLK. That is fucking ridiculous.
It's the way he's described as like he was like out there fighting for civil rights and all this bullshit, right? And it's just a nonsense narrative.
What I don't want to do here is argue against something that Viv hasn't said. The thing that really triggered me, the thing that really got me, was the statements where it's like the misinformation that comes out on the left doesn't matter. That's the thing that really fucking gets me.
I never said it doesn't matter.
Right, but you're saying that we shouldn't.
I mean, if you look at my track record,
I think if you look at me, treat it as if it doesn't matter.
If you look at my track record,
I feel like I'm getting gaslit. Yeah. I feel like that's exactly what was said that triggered the fuck out of me. That made me want to come in here and talk about this.
I mean, that's definitely how Supreme portrayed it. What I said.
Well, no, you said we should ignore it. That was your prescription.
I said no. I said you can make your fucking statement on it or whatever, but arguing about it like constantly, what does that fucking do, right? And especially sitting on here talking about Rosenbaum being fucking white MLK is some kind of prevalent narrative. If you're worried about the left being portrayed as fucking insane, why the hell would you get up here and say that that's a prevalent narrative? It's not a prevalent narrative. We don't need to go to that one.
A prevalent narrative is one that Kyle Rittenhouse is a racist that just wanted to go and look for some action.
Sure.
That is a prevalent narrative.
Yeah, fuck knows. We can't see inside his head. We don't know if he's like I mean, he's certainly in support of a racist cause, but we don't know that he himself is like, yeah, I want to go shoot some black people.
Right, but that is the most prevalent narrative. That's the reason that this issue is contentious, is because this seems to be a line that people broadly on the left want to toe.
Yeah. People want to say that he's a white supremacist.
He is a white supremacist, yeah.
Okay. I would disagree with
that. I mean,
that.
we demonstrated the links earlier in the conversation.
No, we demonstrated that it relies on.
I'm sorry, I disagree.
I said it was loose analysis.
I disagree.
I don't know what loose analysis means.
Apparently
we can't make that assumption on him. We just don't have enough information for that.
I'm sorry if you think that like. if you have some racist or fucking white supremacist views, right? You are a racist or a white supremacist. Like, it doesn't mean that like you're like oh fuck black people, fucking hate them, gonna go kill some of them.
Which
right?
views does
But,
Rittenhouse
like,
have that makes him a racist?
He's in support of Blue Lives Matter.
That doesn't
Sure.
necessarily mean
extent?
somebody's a racist, though. That just means that he supports the police. Like,
It
plenty
means
of
he supports
people.
a racist cause.
Okay,
yeah.
plenty of people
You have to
support the
establish
police.
extent. You
right?
have to establish, if you're going to make the claim that he is a racist, you have to be able to substantiate like the things that he agrees with, the extent to which he agrees with Blue Lives Matter, and specifically, it would have to be specifically the idea that black people don't suffer disproportionate persecution at the hands of police. If you can substantiate that, I think closer to being able to sign off on the narrative.
Sure, if he supports a movement that makes that cause, that's enough.
No, it's not. It requires an analytic leap on your part. That's what makes it loose analysis.
Plenty of people support causes that they are not aware of the full extent of what those causes mean.
Cool. Then they're doing a racism, which makes them racist. It's tough fucking shit. But that's the fucking problem with like people who go, oh no, you can't call me a racist or say that I have bigoted views or whatever. I love X minority, right? When they're spreading ignorant shit about that minority. Your actions are what fucking matter. Not like what's in the deepest depths of your soul.
So it's about
like we've all said. None of us are fucking
right. So supporting Blue Lives Matter is an action that warrants that kind of
furthers white supremacy.
How is Blue Lives Matter supporting Blue Lives Matter an action? That's just his thoughts. You're the one attributing that to an action.
How do we know his thoughts? Like, because he took action in furtherance of them. Jesus fucking Christ.
Being sympathetic to the KKK can certainly mean that you're a proponent of like white supremacy or something. Like, I think we can agree. Like, all I'm asking for you is to substantiate that, like, the specific tenets of a movement like Blue Lives Matter, or what Kyle Rittenhouse interprets when he says I'm in support of Blue Lives Matter, or whatever it was, him liking a Facebook post or something like that. Like, I would actually really like to see the evidence, and so that we can review it, that he's even in support of Blue Lives Matter. Like, I want to see that evidence right now. Like, I want to be able to just review it so that we can even look at it and see to what degree it's established that he thinks that you're saying his support of the movement is in direct support of the idea that
I'm not at my computer right now, so I can't look it up, but I wasn't really expecting to have to establish sort of things that I thought were common knowledge about the case that Kyle had posted in support of Blue Lives Matter.
Well, sure. Did he like a post? Did he himself make a post? Did he write something?
I think that he shared posts on his Facebook. But even if, like, whichever one of those,
he was trying to train to be a cop as well. Yeah.
Like,
even
if we were to grant all of this,
small wonder that somebody who's training to be a cop was sympathetic to the idea that police shouldn't be killed. Like,
sure, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Even if we were to grant all of that, right? I don't think that I find it really hard to demonize people for things like that when. It's just like whatever political team you're on, you're going to either support Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, right? But
I'm sure. Go ahead.
Like, do you disagree with that?
I disagree with the sort of general characterization that you're sort of giving right now. It smacks to me of like, oh, if you say that somebody's racist, they're obviously like the most hideous person here.
No, I don't think
it's
that.
Like, yeah,
and I understand what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from on what you're saying, right?
We're all probably racist in some fashion or other. Like, it's impossible for us to be completely informed on every like marginalized racial community in the entire world, and we probably have some dumb preconceptions that might be harmful or at least misleading about them, right?
Then what is the value of this statement at this
point? But in the case of Kyle, what he did was to go out there explicitly in support of this particular fucking cause, right? So, like, I don't know what is inside fucking Rittenhouse's head. I can only go by his actions. He went out there to do the defend local businesses thing with a bunch of other fucking militia dudes, right?
Aren't plenty of those businesses minority owned, though?
This is a silly narrative as well. Like, what minority-owned businesses were fucking burnt down that night in Kenosha? Like,
well, the previous night it was the car dealership.
Yeah, that was minority owned.
That's the one that he went to go protect.
Car dealerships are fucking huge, but
so does that invalidate the fact that it was minority owned?
No, it doesn't.
Does it matter who owns it? I don't care about that either.
I mean, it's besides the fucking point, like I was saying.
Yeah, I don't like it. Doesn't.
Listen, the biggest issue with all of this is that people are arguing so hard about Rittenhouse himself. When, like, I do agree, like, arguing about Rittenhouse himself is kind of fucking stupid at this point. We can see what's going on in the court case. We can see the videos. If you're the kind of person that likes to watch people get shot over and over and over and over, just like watching the videos over and over, like, if that's what gets you off, then go for it, right? The thing for me is the impact on, like, militias and, like, whether militias should have been there in the first place, right? But
exactly.
But even at that, right?
But you saying Kyle was making an argument that Kyle was justified and that everything's okay with him, right? And arguing against anybody who says any fucking different is perpetuating the narrative that actually the militias should have been there to protect businesses, and that, you know, if white supremacist militias want to go out and mow down dipshit protesters who are setting fire to things, then they have your blessing. That's the message that you're fucking sending out with the actions that you're doing.
But by simply talking about it.
Depending on how you're talking about it, there's a lot of things that you could talk about with the court case that would be much more fucking relevant and much more like conducive to a sort of a progressive cause. Talking about the judge is fucked, dude. Like.
Oh no!
Oh boy!
Here we go. Let's go.
I don't need to. I
don't know enough about the judge itself. Sorry.
Yeah, I know all about the fucking judge. I fucking looked into it. So
okay,
he's a boomer, and I hate boomers.
Cool.
So
yeah, he is a boomer, and I also fucking hate boomers. But like, there are things that you can talk about with the American justice system, right? About the judge. So there's a perception that, like, the judge is unduly biased towards the defense, right? And I think it's worth pointing out, like, the judge's history, for example, right?
Okay, can I ask you a question? I should ask you a quick question about that. Sorry, I know you're getting a bit dogpiled. Okay, I appreciate you coming on.
Well,
okay?
yeah, I am. It's like 5 people now.
I know.
I'm trying not to dogpile because there's only one specific thing that I was, like, super triggered about. But go ahead.
All I want to say is this, okay? So you did a little post earlier that I was a little bit peeved about, going to be honest, okay? And you pointed out that the judge, in one particular case, requested AIDS tests for a sex worker as part of their probation, right?
For multiple sex workers, I believe, but I'll have to go back and read the article again to be 100% sure on that.
That's fine. So two-prong question, okay? So the first part is, what does a decision that this judge made in regards to sex workers in the 80s have to do with a self-defense case in 2021? And the second part of my question is, how does that demonstrate bias, as you claim, when what you've highlighted would suggest that there's a potential bias against the defendant in the case, and Carl Rittenhouse is the defendant?
Again, this is a really, really silly way to look at it, right? Like,
you brought it up.
No. So, okay, for one, right, I said there's a lot of interest in the judge and, like, whether or not he's biased or whatever. And I think, like, a look into the judge's history would expose some serious flaws with the American legal system. The fact that he's run unopposed, for example, and, like, judges being fucking elected anyway is kind of weird the way it works in America. Like, obviously I agree with democratic blah blah blah, but, like, it doesn't seem like those elections are particularly democratic. Fuck, what was the point? What's the last thing you said, Chud? Sorry, I went down a road.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So the two main things I want to understand is, number one, why does a case in the 1980s have to do with a self-defense case in 2021? Secondly, how does this demonstrate bias when the bias was demonstrated was bias against the defendant?
So the bias being against the defendant ignores the other groups that the defendants are, like, part of, right? What I would say is that it demonstrates, like, a pretty conservative bias, right? Which would actually favour the defendant in this case. I don't think. I don't think.
It demonstrates that in the 80s, this fellow was a bit fucking sussy about AIDS. But I think
there's other stuff in his history as well. Like, I brought up that as, like, one of the examples because I think it's a pretty egregious invasion of somebody's bodily autonomy to be doing that. But, like,
but it was the 80s, like. Our attitudes about AIDS have changed since then, and information about AIDS have changed since the 80s either way. Like, I don't know. Like, the justice system is a way of applying a legal standard based on the whims of your contemporaries, right? So like based on the layers of moral preferences that exist at the time.
Oh yeah, the idea that people need to be fucking. He had like this Court of Appeals decision against him for attempting to humiliate defendants, stuff like that.
Sure.
Like he just has a really shitty history, this judge.
But he was appointed by Democrats, wasn't he? That would
Viv don't care about that because she doesn't like Democrats.
I just think this is a huge red herring. Like,
but
what are some actions that the judge has engaged in that you think are unjust? Like, we can just discuss the details.
What, like during the
character
case?
assassinating and saying that his character must be bad, therefore every decision he makes must be bad. Can we just talk about like?
No. That wasn't my point at all, right? I was just saying if you want to talk about like the case, I think like in order to make some progressive points, talking about the judge specifically is an interesting way to like use the hype around the Rittenhouse case to start talking about more progressive points, right? Like how we choose judges in the United States, what the problems are with this particular judge, etc. If you want to talk about like things that he did during the case that I disagree with, right? The whole pinch and zoom debacle was fucking insane. And the
what about it? He said he let the jury decide.
Sure. Wait, no, he disallowed a piece of evidence based on it, right?
Wrong. Wrong-o.
He allowed it.
He just which one is it?
He allowed them to proceed with it. I'm pretty sure.
That like later on?
Not later on. They proceeded.
It's up to prosecution to prove that zooming in on a video with an iPad doesn't alter or manipulate the footage.
Basically, he said you can go ahead, you can go ahead and use this, but later on, it is up to you to prove that the zooming is not affecting the evidence. Basically, if I'm phrasing that properly.
So basic. Okay.
I mean, he literally upheld the objection on that piece.
No, he didn't. Evidence. He allowed them to proceed. They did.
Okay. I know what happened. Okay, so basically, and sorry, listen, I'm being a bit obnoxious. I get that. Okay, but hey, I can't help it. I'm gaming right now. I mean, lucky I'm not saying racial slurs. Anyway, so the point is this: basically, they allowed the evidence to occur. They didn't allow the pinch and zoom. And my understanding is what they did is they basically put it up on the big screen, and all of the Mr. Magoo fucking jury people came up and like looked at it closely, and that was considered to be acceptable, from my understanding.
Right. So they didn't use the zoomed image.
No, because they found the solution.
So he did. So I was right.
No,
you're not right at all. You said it disallowed a piece of evidence. No, because the piece of evidence was allowed. It's just the manipulation of the image wasn't allowed, and they said you can't do that because we don't know if it's going to have a negative impact on the quality or whatever.
Okay, cool.
And there was discourse about that.
It's still an absurd decision.
Just take the fucking L. You're wrong. It's simple. You're wrong. You're wrong, and it's misinformation.
Because the evidence was still allowed, and he even said you could use that, but they decided to do that. So they
the zoomed version.
Okay, yeah. It's not the zoomed version. It is the exact same version. It's just they didn't zoom it on the screen.
Yeah, so you can't zoom in on that.
Right. Yeah, so, but they found a solution. But he said,
"Holy fuck! Why are we going so fucking deep into this when it's pretty fucking clear?" Right. My position is very, very simply that disallowing them to fucking zoom in on the image based on some stupid fucking idea about how iPhone zooming works is fucking dumb.
All he had to do, look, they didn't disallow it. They said you could do it. All you have to do is prove that it's not altered. And they decided, instead of doing that, going through all that hassle, that they'll just have people go up and
have a little butcher's up close.
Yeah. Just get right up close. Yeah. It's fine. I still think it's a stupid fucking decision. Anyway.
Okay, but do you think that means evidence was disallowed? Yes or no?
God.
To answer the question, it's a simple question. Do you think that means that evidence? I want to get a fucking answer on this. Yes or no?
It would depend entirely on whether or not you consider the zoomed image to be a different piece of evidence than the full image. And I don't care.
Delivery Viv strikes again. Let's go.
So this is ultimately
There's no. I mean, it's just fucking absurd for you to be like, "Oh, this is the crazy disinformation we're talking." And clearly, what I'm talking about.
Well, it is disinformation.
Shh. Clearly, what I'm talking about is that disallowing the fucking zoomed image is a bad decision that I thought he took. Right? That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
There's a difference between taking a bad decision and suggesting that means it's biased and throwing doubt on the entire proceedings. Okay.
I mean, it was biased, and it does throw doubt on the entire proceeding.
It wasn't a disallowing. It wasn't disallowing.
The image was allowed in evidence, and then the prosecution wanted to zoom in, wanted to use a specific zoom technique to enhance the image. But that had not yet been allowed into evidence. So him saying, "No, listen, we already allowed this into evidence. I won't allow you to admit the pinch and zoom without expert testimony." So he gave the prosecution that out. He said you can use pinch to zoom if you can provide expert testimony that this doesn't alter the image in any substantial way.
Which makes
I'm glad that you explained that a third time.
Yeah, I know, right? It's almost like I didn't.
Well, it's almost like you shushed me earlier, right? So I mean, I shush because fucking I've just had the same thing explained to me 5 times in a fucking row. It's pretty fucking exasperating, as if I'm not fucking talking about the same thing that you are. It's fucking absurd. I don't think
you're reaching insane conclusions off the back of it. That's the problem I've got.
What insane conclusions?
That the judge is like that. It demonstrates a significant bias in the judge, where because it's perfectly fine. If you've looked at the law and you have.
You just said it.
I don't want to.
I said there are some decisions in the case that I think the judge took that were fucking crap. I said that there is a. Fuck's sake! I've got like 4 people fucking screaming at me every time I open my fucking mouth, Supreme.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I'll be quiet. I'll mute myself.
If I said, holy fucking shit! If I said that it demonstrates bias. Okay, maybe I fucking misspoke. What I meant by that, right, is that it makes it harder for the fucking defense to the prosecution to present their case, right? Having to present an expert witness to testify that the fucking phones or whatever, and then making that decision as well, right? It's more shit that the prosecution has to do that they weren't even prepared for, right? They'd have to go find an expert witness, get them to testify. That's more time in the fucking trial. It's it demonstrably makes the prosecution's case harder, right? I think there were a lot of decisions,
but justifiably so or not?
Made. I don't think it's justifiably so at all. No.
I'm gonna shut up now because I've been speaking too much. Okay, sorry, Supreme, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a good case for, like, how does pinch to zoom work? Do you know, Viv?
I don't know. It adds a few extra pixels,
why do you have such a strong opinion on this?
Because this technology has been used in fucking courtrooms for fucking ages, right? It's like pretty fucking standard operation at this point. And if you're asked, you're basically disallowing all the previous evidence that's been used with like Zoom technologies at that point, right? But you're not going to be able to do that.
I don't know that that's true. Listen, I don't want to call you a liar, but 1, I don't know that's true, and 2, if the question is raised during a trial, hang on a minute, there might be like a problem with this. This might introduce elements or details that aren't actually present.
Okay, but I don't think it's so for the purpose of the evidence that was being shown at the time, right? I don't think that the pinch and zoom is able to alter the image enough, right, to make it a different image.
What understanding?
I don't know. It's not going to put a gun in the dude's hand if the gun isn't there, right?
Okay, if the question is raised that it might do exactly that, I personally think it's reasonable for the judge to be like, well, if this is the argument being made and the prosecution is saying that it won't do that, I'll allow the prosecution to provide an expert witness to make that case before we allow them to admit like this new changed piece of evidence. Is that not reasonable?
Sure, I still don't think it's reasonable to get to have the prosecution be the one to have to prove something so fucking inane. But sure.
Well, then they should try to admit the image to a piece of evidence into evidence before they try to present it.
Yeah, quite possibly. But I think there were a lot. There were a lot of decisions the judge took that made it more difficult for the prosecution to make their case. But that's fine, right? All I was saying with the fucking biased judge thing, right? I'm not even prepared to make the fucking statement that the judge is biased. Okay.
And he might be. And just to be clear, I think
Yeah, he might be, right? And it's a discussion that's out there. And we were literally talking about, like, what are the responsible narratives and conversations that you should that I think we could have around this, or that we can have in general, right? And you guys were saying that this is the major big conversation, so we have to riff off that. And I was giving suggestions of ways to riff off that are actually, like, in aid of progressive causes rather than damaging to them and encouraging harassment towards other people in this community. That's what I said, right? And I was saying that the narrative that the judge is biased, I think, warrants, like, a decent fucking look into it. And upon looking at its history and so on, I think you can illuminate several other problems with the American, like, judicial process.
Well, it sounds like if you want to discuss these things, what you should do is start a channel and go ahead and start some of these conversations. And that way, I don't know, you will be satisfied that they're being had. I don't know. I feel like these conversations are being had. I'm not convinced that nobody ever talks about this. I feel like every detail of this case has been discussed by the largest content creators, you know, that we know to like cover these topics. I don't know, like, the idea, no, you guys shouldn't cover this. You should cover something else. Like, that's on you. If you want to do that, create the content, see if it draws an audience.
I was trying, actually. Fucking Pisco's been very busy. He backed out of a thing. But because we were going to be talking about the Unite the Right lawsuit, but he's had stuff come up.
Can I ask you why you think it's more important to talk about other things besides the Rittenhouse case?
Because what are the results of talking about the Rittenhouse case?
Push back on right-wing narratives about him being a hero. Push back on misinformation that might be out there.
I've not seen particularly.
Yeah, because everybody agrees on this platform. Everybody agrees that he shouldn't be considered a hero. So there's what discussion is there to be had? It's over. It's solved.
And that's the point, right? Like, everything always has to be a debate, so you always have to find somebody to punch down on the shit on them. And I'm pretty sure you could find some fucking rightoids that think he's the hero. I mean, like, enough of you are willing to engage with fucking politically provoked. Like, you'll find some fucking rightoids that are like, yeah, St. Rittenhouse pedo.
Juicy. Politically provoked, nice meme.
The only, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? The only way to know whether or not there's like some disagreement about a topic is for that disagreement to be posed. Like,
it doesn't have to be posed within your community, right?
Okay.
When Chud is here sitting here making content about random YouTuber X, fucking Doomcock or whatever, it doesn't require him to be on the platform and in a debate with him for him to make compelling content about it.
Great content, by the way. Great content. Check that out.
But that is contention.
Doomcock's a fucking disaster.
That's somebody offering an opposing view that Chud gets to deliver his analysis for why.
Wait, so are you saying there aren't? Okay, so there are definitely
argument, I believe,
off platform. There definitely are people off platform lionizing Rittenhouse, right? And there definitely are people saying the things that I was saying that they're saying, right?
Yeah.
I think
everyone on the platform is saying that idea is wrong. Like,
okay, cool. So you
can
start directing the fucking aggression and vitriol
because you say so, and then continue to let people in your own camp just say a bunch of bullshit and lie.
Directing the hatred and vitriol off platform instead of continuously directing it against other people on the platform.
I don't know. Like, I think it's perfectly reasonable.
How would we ever keep the drama mill going if we didn't?
Let me ask you directly.
It's more than just the drama mill. It's more. It's about infection. It's about like fucking like. I don't think it's okay to start giving people a pass if the conversation by and large being had is one that is harmful to your overall credibility or the credibility of the team or movement that you identify with. I think it's perfectly.
There's a difference between.
Vivian, let me ask you directly.
There is a position.
What are the things that you think are people pushing back on, right? That you don't think are needing to be pushed back on? What people are being attacked for? What position?
I mean, it's funny.
That's why I'm confused because I don't know what you're arguing.
Supreme just said something to me, and I was about to reply, and it would have.
No, you can reply to that,
and it would have answered what you just said.
Okay, go ahead.
So there is a line, right? That is somewhere in between, like allowing people to go about carte blanche saying whatever the fuck they want, right? And spending literal weeks berating them, right? There is some kind of fucking line between those two things. You realize that, right? Like, I have lost friends making statements, right, in favor of what I think is the truth of the situation. Like, if you look at my track record on this platform, in fact, immediately after the fucking Carl Rittenhouse conversation I had with Destiny like a year ago or whatever, when he got deplatformed, right? And people were like, "Oh, he's saying like people, white supremacists should just go around shooting black people all over the place. He's a fucking Nazi," right? I was like, "No, I don't think that's the case," right? Like, he was specific in what he meant, and I sorely fucking disagree with it. But like, trying to say that it is as bad as this, that's not true. Okay, I made a thread. I made my fucking statement. I think one person like asked me about it, and I spoke to them about it. Maybe it was even you, Chad. I think I spoke to you about it at the time. And then that was it. I just fucking dropped it. Okay. I even deleted the thread after a few days because I was sick of the absolute toxicity that was happening in the comments underneath it. Because I was like, I've made my statement. Everybody knows what it is at this point, and there's no use me like continuing to maintain this arena that people are just using to be shitty to each other. So there is a line between letting people get off scot-free with saying bullshit and spending every waking minute fucking berating them for it.
Who is having this done to them in the context of the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff? Because I genuinely don't know.
I mean, the best example I can think of at the moment is Bad Bunny. I mean, the shit that she's getting for the fucking thing she said about Rittenhouse.
Oh boy, let's go.
That's fucking insane and never ending. But then, you know, that comes from a long fucking tradition of just being fucking utterly awful to her for unjustified reasons.
Oh boy. Okay, we could probably have conversations about that. I think that's a perfect.
I'm sure there are. I'm sure you might think that there are reasons that are justified to be fucking awful to her, but the $5 a month thing, it fucking ain't one of them.
That's not one of them.
That's really fucking dumb. Yeah, so there's a lot of shit that she gets that's fucking unjustified.
And listen, I agree with you that there's a greater trend of essentializing people based on a couple of takes that they've had. Because they said this one stupid thing, therefore all these other things they said must be.
Bad Bunny said some fucking horrific shit like about 3 years ago or whatever.
Just literally calling him a white supremacist right now, a murderer right now.
We're fucking doctored to fuck, right? None of it, like some of them we just don't even know if they're fucking true. Some of them are are like confirmed to be doctored, and some of them are fucking true. So
I'm going to step in as moderator and just confirm an important detail. Is it true that there are 14 pages of logs of us saying the N-word in Discord?
I think
I don't know. I don't know how many of those are true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was true.
I think it's various slurs. In any case,
there are various slurs, yeah, from about 3 years ago or whatever. And she has
Bad Bunny said racist shit about Asians last month.
Right in the last.
Listen, I'm going to say the slurs are the least harmful or silly thing that she said to garner criticism.
But
what did she say, Aiko?
I mean, if you want to go after, and that's the point, right? I think it's unjustified to be like fucking harassing her constantly for the slurs every time she has a take that like you don't.
Well, what exactly did she say?
Because like the behavior, everybody on here is always talking about how fucking great it is to deplatform fascists so that we can de-radicalize them. And the behavior that I've seen from Bad Bunny in the last fucking year and a half at least, right, seems to demonstrate that she thinks that those comments that she made earlier were fucking heinous, and she's apologized for them on multiple fucking occasions. And she spends a lot of time talking about.
Just to be clear, that ain't my goal.
Shit like that. I know. But I just think it's really fucking weird that we can make that argument for platforming fascists, but like, you know, every time Bad Bunny comes up in conversation, it's like, oh, look at these Discord logs from a few years ago.
In this moment, you're fighting people that aren't in this conversation. I think I agree with you that we shouldn't be essentializing people based on the takes that they've had in the past. I think we should examine every statement that's made and criticize it where applicable.
But the level of my point in bringing that up, right, was that the level of shit that she's getting around the Kenosha shit is just tied to the broader kind of like I want to say
Destiny a fascist for his takes that I would consider are accurate and quite measured on the Kenosha.
Yeah. All I want to say is I think that Bad Bunny could be somewhat less obnoxious about the way she's going about it, and maybe she wouldn't get so much shit. Hot take maybe, but I said it.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you one thing. When I first got on to panel, if anybody goes and sees my conversation with Jesse Lee Peterson, they will see a very calm, jovial, well put together, polite person who gives their opponent the opportunity to speak and replies, you know, and has very nice civil conversations. And consistent fucking harassment and toxicity on this platform has beaten me down to the point where you see me on prime panels now. I'm like, right, which one of these people are total cunts that I don't want to engage with, and which people do I want to have a conversation with? And I will just fucking bully the shit out of the people that I don't think are worth having in that conversation. To be fair, it's like a 12-person panel, so you kind of have to do that, otherwise you just don't get any kind of back and forth going. But I can completely understand why people become antagonistic when they're receiving like a ridiculous amount of harassment, and that's precisely my point, right? Like the continual perpetuation of toxicity on this platform, like, makes it very, very difficult to like interact in good faith, in a sensible fashion, to give people charity or the benefit of the fucking doubt, right? Or to do any of the things around like de-radicalizing or moving people left or whatever that people say that they're trying to do. It's all counteractive to any of that. Who the fuck wants to be part of the Twitch community at the moment? Come on. Like, from the outside looking in.
The ultimate issue that you have with all of this to do with people being angry at someone for saying stupid shit about the situation?
I mean, it depends how you express that anger, right?
This is literally, you put yourself on a public platform, and you should know that there are consequences to the things that you say.
Okay, but I don't think we should.
But what are reasonable consequences?
It's not about what's reasonable. Do we agree that it ought to be the way that it's handled? That if somebody has a couple of bad takes, then there's suddenly like a brigade or a swarm of people that are, you know, like dancing around them, fucking beating them in the head with a wiffle bat or whatever the hell it is. Like,
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's never ending for like months/years, right? People will continue bringing this shit up to you, like.
Yeah,
my list memes are never ending. Okay, there's everybody always mentions the list. I don't even mind that because it allows me to continuously say, yeah, doxing fascists is cool.
Okay, well that's we would want, like, that's a take personally that I take contention with, because I have to be honest, like, I don't know if I trust anybody's assessment, any individual on this platform's assessment of who is or is not a fascist. If we're gonna simultaneously say that fucking Kyle Rittenhouse,
true, make sure that like, well, I mean, listen,
I
don't want to
get
in. I don't
2 days ago, I'm going to bring this up. 2 days ago, you said that you would prescribe for people and that you encourage people. The claims of stochastic terrorism, I think, are pretty well corroborated when you're like encouraging people to smash up the fucking spaces of the Young Conservatives Club at your local university or whatever. Like,
make it difficult for them to spread their propaganda. Absolutely, make it difficult for them to operate on your campus. There should be no place for bigotry, especially in places where like young adults are trying to fucking learn.
Okay.
Holy shit!
So you're making this assessment that the Young Conservatives Club at your local university is a group of fascists. Like, come on, what is the value?
No, I'm not. Anymore? No, I'm not. How fucking dare you? How dare you put words in my mouth? At no point did I say they are fascists.
Okay.
Get the fuck out. I am so no, that pisses me off, because when I use terms like fascist, white supremacist, fucking white nationalist, whatever, right? Neo-Nazi, right? I'm very particular in who I apply those things to, right? That's why I got pissed at Destiny for repeatedly saying that I'd said that Blue Lives Matter was white nationalist, right? Because white nationalist pertains to people who want to create a white ethno-state. Sure. And at no point have I made that allegation about Blue Lives Matter, right? I back my shit up and I use my terms very, very fucking carefully. So no, the Young Conservatives Club at your university is not necessarily a fascist club, right?
But
Some of them are.
They deserve to be terrorized.
I mean, depends on what you mean by terrorized. Deplatforming, I don't think really fits the fucking definition of terrorism. But sure, go off.
Okay, I listen. Like, if we're gonna listen,
I,
you're creating an environment where you make them fear identifying with a given political identity, and I think young conservatives.
I mean, okay, then canceling somebody on Twitter is terrorism, right? Because it makes people fear for their careers.
No, I'm sorry.
Something.
Going into somebody's physical space and causing destruction of their property, I think is a much stronger demonstration that you mean them like harm to their person than saying this person's a poopy head on Twitter. Or
sorry, harm to their person. Yes. I don't recall advocating for harm to the persons of the Young Conservatives Club.
But you advocated smashing up their space, and I think that's you can reasonably infer if you're a young conservative, holy shit, this is what they're willing to do against me. That it's like reasonable to infer that like personal harm is next. We agreed on this 2 nights ago.
I mean, I said that I think that some people could infer that. I wouldn't encourage physical violence unless it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary.
Is it reasonable if it's reasonable to infer, then it's reasonable to consider it terror.
I mean, if that's your definition of terrorism, if you think that like terrorism is whenever somebody could reasonably fear that they might be attacked for some kind of political view or whatever,
yes, then that is the definition of terrorism.
No, it's not. The definition of terrorism is actually fucking doing that. Right?
No, it's not. It's creating the fear. It's creating the atmosphere of fear, making people fear for their personal well-being unless they make some change.
Then canceling somebody on Twitter is terrorism.
No, it's not, because canceling somebody on Twitter does not make them fear for their personal well-being.
Protesting outside their house is terrorism.
Or that they won't get enough likes or something.
Protesting outside their house is terrorism.
If you set up a guillotine, yeah.
You don't need to set up a guillotine. Protesting outside their house is terrorism.
Sure.
Numerous people who've had people protesting outside their house have said that they feared for their family and their own personal safety. So, like, it seems reasonable that like people might fear for their personal safety in that situation. So, protesting outside their house is terrorism.
Can we say that there's a distinction
protesting
outside
protesting anywhere is terrorism. Sure, there's a difference between those.
What you're advocating for is destroying the house of the young.
I'm not advocating for destroying somebody's house.
But it's where they go to meet and like discuss their ideology.
Okay, that's not their fucking house, is it?
Sure, it's not their house.
I mean, that's probably a space used by multiple people if we're on a university campus.
Okay.
Am I wrong? Am I saying go into their dormitories and fucking break their TV?
It might as well be. It's where they live.
No, I didn't. They don't live in whatever fucking room they have their meetings in.
But if it's on the same campus where they live, it's not a stretch. Like it's not a long distance. I think there's a distinction we can make about. First off, I don't advocate people go outside anybody's house to protest for the reason that you're discussing. But I think it's a much
protesting outside Parliament is still terrorism. Then that's terrorism.
That's totally expected. That's a perfectly appropriate place for a political protest.
It's perfectly appropriate, but it does make MPs fear for their personal safety. That's why they come out with fucking police guards and so on. So it must be terrorism.
Okay, like, I don't know.
That's why I'm saying your definition of terrorism is so fucking loose that it doesn't... You were accusing me of having a loose analysis earlier. I think this definition of terrorism is pretty fucking loose, to be honest.
It's not. It's what the definition of terrorism is. You're creating intentionally an air of terror that makes them fear for their personal safety unless they achieve some greater political or whatever.
And bigots being on campus fucking creates that exact same fucking air. Okay?
What does that have to do with the young...
So we're fighting terror with terror.
What does it have to do with the Young Conservative Club? Like, at your local university? Is that what they're all about?
I mean, find me a Young Conservative Club that isn't. Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
That isn't what?
That isn't about some form of bigotry. They might be some weird fiscal conservative whatever, but they're still going to be perpetuating bullshit about like fucking trans people or whatever, right? Trans people's the most popular one at the moment. But find me a Young Conservative Club that doesn't fucking express any bigoted views, and I'll find you a fucking, I don't know, a flying pig.
Oh, fuck it. We can just trash each other's spaces. Fuck it.
I mean, the existence of bigots in your in your community is trashing your space.
No, listen, this is an acceptable way to participate in fucking partisan politics. We'll just start busting up each other's spaces.
Well, apparently we've decided that it's perfectly fucking acceptable to have like genocidal fucking nut jobs marching down the street demanding that we commit fucking genocide, but it's not appropriate to fucking smash up a fucking projector.
Who demanded that we commit genocide?
Fucking every KKK rally ever. So like. So and not to mention the fucking National Socialist movements protests where they were literally escorted through the middle of Pride by the police. So we've decided as a society that that's perfectly okay. But apparently,
wait, did that actually? Did they actually advocate for violence? Because I feel like, well, okay, I won't. Never mind. I won't say anything.
I'd want to look into
the national. It's the National Socialist movement. Yes, they advocate for violence.
Like, yeah, but if they're in public.
We have this thing called freedom of speech in this country, and it does not extend to destroying things.
I agreed. It doesn't. Apparently, destroying a projector or a fucking printer that's used to print bigoted fucking leaflets is apparently a worse crime than advocating for genocide in the United States, and I think that's fucking disgusting. But if you think that that's fine, then fine.
Okay. Listen, I think you're reading. Listen. I don't know what else to say. So if you're generating leaflets that are spreading a bigoted message, like, would you say that this is not emblematic of fascism or something? This isn't like a fascist ideal.
Sorry, if you're doing what?
If you're doing the
I
thing
am aware,
that you're saying
Occam's Razor Scooter. I have met and argued with many National Socialists. I think I know what they are.
Being bigoted in the way that they're decrying, like, different lifestyles or whatever.
When there's a public demonstration, people generally don't advocate for violence because that would be putting themselves in a lot of trouble.
Because fascism is fucking anti-democratic ultranationalism with a focus on purifying the bulk of undesirables, generally based on some immutable.
If you advocate for those things in
and informed by a palingenetic myth
in a public space, I'm pretty sure you're going to get into trouble
without being a fascist.
Sure, fair enough, but like, I'm sorry, that whole middle part about
So I said I'm very particular about what I use, like how I use my words and stuff. Okay, seems like that would be a very loose definition of fascism.
I love it. I love it when chat tells me things that I am aware of.
I mean, it depends on what they're advocating for.
Yeah, I don't know. So, like, is this a thing that you think every Young Conservatives Club is doing, printing leaflets that are decrying people for being gay or whatever, or like other immutable characteristics?
I think protests and taking actions towards groups like that.
Can you answer the question?
I am answering the fucking.
No, you're not.
I think that taking actions against groups.
Can you answer the question? Is this a thing that you think Young Conservative clubs are doing, and like universities across America printing leaflets telling people not to be gay or that black people are bad?
Some of them, but not all of them. Sure. I think that most conservative clubs in the United States, as I was trying to fucking say, right, probably take some form of protest action against the civil rights of minorities. That might be printing leaflets. It might be standing outside the university with a sign saying, God loves you, don't trans your children. It could be a whole bunch of different things. But I think most conservative clubs at universities in the United States engage in
log cabin Republicans in DC throw hella lit parties. I just gotta say,
my experience with Young Conservative
hella lit
clubs are just people who fucking like Ayn Rand, or like they want to get into sailing or some shit, and I don't know. It's like
fucking nerds.
Yeah, they're nerds. They're literally nerds.
Maybe it was
they're literally fucking nerds. It's just an identity thing for them.
Maybe it was different when you went to university. I mean,
I'm in university right now.
Fair enough.
And I live in America. I don't know what to say. I feel like I'm more qualified to.
I'm across the pond. So, but if you have a different experience, then I could be wrong on that. I do know that there's been significant strides by certain movements, like America First, for example, to create young Republican clubs in universities. So I know there's a significant amount of young Republican clubs that are like that. But sure, I'll bite the bullet and say that I can't definitively say that it's the majority.
Yeah, I don't know. Just creating the prescription that we should go in and like destroy their physical spaces and stuff like that. I think there's certainly a much more reasonable link to calling that like a form of stochastic terrorism.
I think
than
anyone who
protesting
supports the
outside of
I think
Parliament.
anyone who supports the GOP at this time should be resisted in some fashion. Though.
The GOP is starting to see
Resist
some like.
is might be doing some legwork there, because it feels like you would be arguing for way harsher kinds of resistance than maybe I or Supreme or Stardust would.
Well, yeah, because I'm like the only outspoken anti-fascist on this platform so far.
I really,
Actually, that's
hey
not true.
Vivian, can I take a hard
The
line
only one
stance
who's
here
willing
and
to
say,
engage with you.
I really don't like fascism. I think fascism is really not poggers.
I think it's fucking lame.
It's lame as fuck.
Lame.
And I also don't think that we should be going around
Cringe.
and saying that we can just, you know, beat them over the head, literally. Right?
Okay.
Is that?
I would even go further to say that there is no greater recruitment tool or no greater mechanism to recruit new Republicans or to entrench them into even more pernicious views than anti-fascist action. Okay, that's what I would say.
Well, I mean, you know,
nothing drives their fervor and radicalizes them than fucking.
That has been the view for quite a while. Like, you know, since before Cable Street even, and yet, you know, we've been doing it for decades with.
Yeah,
quite
man,
a lot of success.
look where the Republican Party is now, like further right than it's been in 100 years.
Yeah, and that's definitely just because of the anti-fascists trying to fight.
It
against
is literally their
and
major platform,
and not the garbage fucking lib shits who do absolutely nothing to fight against it.
It is literally their major platform. They're telling you what they're all about. You don't even have to guess. They're telling you.
I don't want to happen out of like the Rittenhouse discourse or any of the misinformation or shit information that comes out of lefty circles, right? What I don't want to happen is for us to just say, yeah, well, we should be at the protest too, and we should be armed tougher than them, and then for us to have, you know, like 1920s Germany style fucking everybody's in some sort of fucking socialist or fascist gang walking around fucking killing each other. Like, that's what I don't want to happen, right? And it feels like that's the ultimate end state of what you are saying here is, you know, like, yeah, we should be also Arno, we should be pushing these people out of fucking.
Well, yeah, I mean, your other proposal is that we just allow fucking armed fascist gangs to march around unopposed.
No,
so
I don't want them to be like marching around either. I don't even like the fucking Second Amendment. All right,
you don't have any control.
I don't think
you don't have any control over whether they march around like that, right? Like,
well, I do think that we should have police that go around and say like, hey, if you're walking around in a fucking armed protest, there should be heavy police influence there, and
we do through legislation is the short answer to that.
Yeah, it'd be really nice if those police officers didn't then help like march them through the middle of pride parades. Yeah, that's I mean your prescription of like, oh,
well, we could also get pride
like,
people to
what
go
you're asking
through
for is
at
more
fascist
restrictions
rallies.
on free speech in this moment, Viv, and that's not very popular, and you don't live here.
Sorry, more restrictions on free speech.
Yes, because that's what allows them to do this is the protections we have on free speech. And listen, what allows them to do this, right? It's not the fucking like what the government do. It is a complacent fucking populace. A complacent and often sympathetic populace that allows them to fucking do this. It is actually the law.
I'm not arguing.
If it were restricted, they wouldn't be allowed to do it.
I'm not.
These actions are explicitly protected in our constitution. If it was by case law, like over and over again.
Okay, the idea that if it was illegal, they wouldn't be allowed to do that is pretty. They wouldn't be able to do that. It's pretty easily fucking discounted by all the illegal shit that they do all the fucking time. So.
Now you're alleging conspiracy, and that should be investigated on a case-by-case basis.
Sorry, how am I alleging conspiracy?
Because you're alleging conspiracy because you're alluding to the fact that these like Nazi
I'm saying I'm saying shit being illegal doesn't stop people from doing it. Okay. That's what I'm saying. And it demonstrably doesn't stop them from doing it when there's like very limited policing of certain activities that like that they get up to.
No, listen, right now you're criticizing the police escorting people through parades, and I'm telling you that like there's a constitutional basis for this that's been upheld by case law over and over again. Okay, these people are legally protected often in these cases, and like if you're extrapolating this off to, well, these people do all this other illegal shit and they get away with it, then that's alleging conspiracy.
Extrapolating shit off. You made the statement that if it was don't fucking sigh at me, because you made a dumb statement that if it was illegal they wouldn't be able to do it, and I said that's demonstrably not fucking
the
true.
Cops wouldn't escort them through it unless there was some sort of conspiracy.
I agree broadly that the police are not going to help them engage in illegal action. Actually, I don't even know if I agree with that. It would depend on a case-by-case basis.
Yes.
Because of course you do have the instances of police officers, one being in neo-Nazi gangs and two colluding with neo-Nazi gangs in the case of like Patriot Prayer in Portland, for example.
Those need to be investigated on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I mean, one day they will be, maybe, if we get lucky. Right now, they're just kind of ignored.
Well, all we can do to make sure that happens, that those investigations do happen, and it's not, a broader conspiracy, is to make sure that we vote people in that will open up those investigations, right? Rather than just a bunch of people who pretend like it's not an actual problem at all.
Or create political will, demonstrate that there's some amount of political will for this.
I mean, good luck, right? There obviously
like,
isn't political will for this, right?
But what my issue is, it feels like what you're doing is making it to where we shouldn't even try to push for that, and instead
go for it. I mean, what was it fucking Kropotkin said about using the apparatus of the state to your advantage as much as you can, but ultimately, like, the power rests with the people. Like, go vote, do it. Voting's good. Vote to reduce harm. Blah blah blah. Right? But like, at the end of the day, like, what's happening now, in the fucking streets of America, is that, like, there is
you really don't like it.
Sorry?
Is that you really don't like it? What's happening in the streets of America right now? You really do not like it.
Yeah, and people are being hurt, and in some cases killed. And there's, the instances where this has been avoided, where we've managed to, like, where anti-fascists have managed to push these people out. Those have potentially saved lives. So, I mean, you can argue as much as you like about it. It's just that
so
I advocate
pushing a group of fucking Nazis out of an area or whatever. I'm much more sympathetic to this, to creating a prescription. Listen, if you've got Nazis coming to town and like marching through your street, you should push them out. But that's far removed from the prescription of you should bust up your local young conservatives club.
Yeah.
Are we going back to that now?
Yes, because you dragged one from the other. You equivocated the two. That's how we got on the topic we were just on.
Yeah, I mean, resistance to the far right, like, is at all levels of society. There's significant, like, efforts by the far right to set up these young Republican clubs for recruitment. So yeah, getting push against that shit.
That's another conspiracy you're alleging. I would want to see that substantiated, that young conservative clubs at universities are like explicitly set up buy-in for the benefit of far right extremist groups.
Okay, I mean, just fucking spend 5 minutes researching America First.
America First is not reflective of every young Republican's group in America. America First
it doesn't have to be to substantiate the claim that America First are making significant efforts to set up young Republican clubs in universities. That's the claim that was made.
Republican clubs have existed in universities for a long time. It's not America First putting them there.
I never said it was.
Sorry, just now you did allude that they were set up buy-in for the benefit of like far right groups.
I'm sorry, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wording shit really poorly, but it does seem really fucking disingenuous to assert that, like, I'm saying that all young Republican clubs are set up by far right.
Okay.
Set up by far
get
right.
Us a clip, folks. At this point, get us a clip.
No, go for it. Get us the clip, because it seems incredibly disingenuous to think that I'm saying that.
Okay, then what were you trying to say?
Holy fuck! Every single Young Republicans club is set up by some far right organization. Like, at no point did I fucking say that.
All right, then what were you trying to say? What were you trying to say?
What I was trying to say is what I said verbatim, in fact, right? Which is that there are. Oh fuck! I'm not going to be able to do it verbatim now, am I? Is that the far right are making a particular effort to set up Young Republicans clubs in universities? That's what I said. And you extrapolated from that I was somehow saying that every single Young Republicans club is set up by a far right organization.
Majority, I would say, okay, I would say majority of, I don't know where this is happening, that America First is somehow the leading group that is setting up a new Republican. Wait a second. Let me finish. Let me finish. Okay. Let me finish. And so I have yet to hear about America First setting up young Republican groups in universities and them being like, leading that or whatever. I think you will find that majority of universities have had young Republican groups without the influence of anybody outside. I can't imagine a university that doesn't have a young Republicans group of some sort already.
Yeah, I agree.
So what is America? Where is America First coming into this? I have no idea how they're related to this.
Well, maybe you should have listened to the conversation that we were having. I mean, we got to that point through various different fucking interjections, mostly between me and Supreme. So, I mean, if you didn't follow the conversation, you didn't follow the conversation.
You're just being rude.
Sure, here's a clip of what you said, and you can help me understand.
Well, I think
you're just being fucking rude, dude.
I think it's incredibly fucking rude to continuously fucking accuse me of saying things that I haven't fucking said. So, well, like, actually,
okay, so
actually, I think I'm being really fucking. I'm erring on the side of polite by not just saying that you're coming in here to fucking troll. Okay, I'm assuming that, like, maybe you just haven't listened properly to the conversation, or you've misunderstood something.
Maybe
right?
you had bad phrasing.
That you're being
I mean, I'm not the only one who seems to have misunderstood you at that point. So maybe you have bad phrasing.
Let's all simmer down. Come on, let's all chill and let's try and get back on track. Okay.
Chud is swimming through a lake of piss right now, and I'm trying to make sense of this.
Yeah, listen, I'm going for the chicken dinner. So, listen, obviously, I'm very appreciative of you coming on and arguing. I'm going to keep streaming for a little while. So, if you want to flesh this out further, I feel bad. I've got you all on here fighting.
This happens in conversations a lot, where you'll say a thing and then I will criticize that thing, and then you'll say, "What? I never said that." And I'm looking at the clip right now, and you can help me. I put the clip up. You can help me understand.
Sure.
Can you link it in the chat?
I did.
In the group chat? Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Resistance to the far right, like, is at all levels of society. There's significant, like, efforts by the far right to. So what I said there Republican clubs, reads to you as all young Republican groups are set up by far right organizations.
Okay.
You can honestly tell me that is a reasonable interpretation of what I just said.
Sure. So I think at some point what you mentioned was said, but like I also feel like it was said that my understanding of your claim was that young Republican clubs are set up by and large by and for the benefit of far right groups.
No, that is not. Okay, that is. If that's what you read out of my claim, that is not my claim.
Okay, I'm going to quote your claim verbatim, and we can let the people. We
just watched the clip.
Well, you and
I
watched
it in chat. You can all watch it.
Sure,
it's great. So the added information that the far right is setting up Republican clubs in universities does not mean that they are responsible for all of the young Republican clubs in universities.
Okay, but
right?
you said the significant efforts of the far
yes,
by the
there
far
are
right.
significant efforts.
Okay.
Yes, there are significant efforts by the far right to do this, right? Now, this does not mean that all young Republican clubs are set up by the far right. However, right, I think it is reasonable to infer that like young Republican clubs in general probably benefit the far right, and that they'll be happy about them fucking being there because you know
free healthcare might benefit.
Anywhere
what does significant efforts mean?
Well, free healthcare isn't on the pipeline to the far right, is it?
Yeah, but it might
whereas
benefit them. So
whereas conservatism is. So like there's a difference. There's a difference between being benefited by free healthcare and being benefited by something that is driving people towards your ideology.
I have a question.
Right? Again, this just seems disingenuous to me, Supreme, to do the whole fucking.
I'm trying to highlight what I consider to be loose analysis.
You're trying to contribute, a very loose analysis, an incredibly loose analysis, much looser than any analysis I've provided throughout this whole conversation.
No. I'm trying to highlight where your analysis is really loose and where things fall through the cracks.
If I can, I wanted to ask what like these significant efforts are, like to set up these young Republican organizations. Like what exactly?
Yeah, it's been a goal by the Groypers for a while to set up young Republican clubs in universities. It's a thing that they've been doing.
But what does the significant efforts mean?
What does the significant effort mean? It means that they've set up a bunch of these clubs.
I feel like this is a stupid conversation. I don't even disagree with Viv.
Yeah, I don't even disagree with Viv here necessarily. Where it's not stupid, and this is where the loose analysis contributes, I think, to the point that I was trying to make earlier. Like you yourself are saying, okay, yeah, it's really loose. Fine, there are significant efforts. Sure, these young Republican clubs at worst, by and large, benefit the far right because maybe it drives to their recruitment or something like that. Yeah. So why the prescription? If you're conceding that you never said that all young Republicans clubs are set up by the far right or whatever, then why the blanket prescription that you should smash up your local young Republicans club? Like, if you're conceding that not all of them, like, it would require a case-by-case analysis and investigation where that's true. And even then, like, I don't know that smashing up the local club does anything but fuel their recruitment.
I mean, stopping them from being able to, like, do whatever it is that they're fucking doing.
Oh, is that what that does?
That's what I was
saying. One of the biggest drivers. One of the other things. You wouldn't disagree with this.
That conversation, you wouldn't. One of the other things that I said during that conversation, Supreme, was that like get them expelled, right? Find a way to get them expelled.
Right,
like,
but really quick.
I don't understand.
You wouldn't disagree with this statement, all right? If we go out of our way to demonize, really quick, Viv. You wouldn't disagree with this. If we go out of our way to demonize people to the point where they see themselves as victims, and they could be like heroes towards their causes, right? And they could be martyrs and like make themselves martyrs by doing things like, you know, whatever Caitlyn Bennett did with the fucking gun girl shit. Don't you think that also drives people towards them? And maybe like either instead of smashing them up, just like either ignoring them or arguing against their points are like better ways to doing this than actively victimizing them and giving them that victim
on top of that
narrative.
if I can add something to that, I would say that you encouraging young people to go out and smash up young Republicans clubs and engage in that kind of activity actually puts them at risk of getting expelled and ruining their lives.
Yeah, it does. Be real careful that you can't be identified. Oh, so like,
oh come on, but that you're like, this is the stochastic terrorist shit, right? Like,
I do not care. I do not care. You can
well then don't worry about being called a stochastic terrorist if that's what you're
doing. I mean, I'm glad that you feel great about I'm glad that you feel great about encouraging young people to engage in risky activity that is very likely going to cost them their futures. I mean,
young adults, right?
Okay, really quick, Vivian, do you? Why would you be mad at people for saying the stochastic terrorist thing when you're actively telling people to go and do shit that would be stochastic, like, that would be terrorism?
I mean, we're going back in the conversation to the point where I said that I think that defining that as terrorism is so incredibly loose.
What would your definition of terrorism be? How would your definition?
But like,
how would your definition differ from this?
How would my definition of terrorism differ from this?
Yes.
I mean,
is it? Do you literally have to say like fucking like strap on a fucking suicide vest? Is that what terrorism is? What is terrorism if not trying to keep people?
Terrorism for starters. Terrorism for starters.
I got a shower and I got to stream.
Okay.
Love you, buddy.
Terrorism for starters is a derogatory political label that we place on political activism that like overstrays the realm, the line of lawlessness, right? That we disagree with, right? The whole one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, whatever, right? So for starters, it's as mercurial a term as you like. It's mostly a political fucking label. But for me, I think it's
people terrorists all the time, though. If they're like white nationalist terrorists,
yeah, I do, because it's a political label.
Okay, so you don't think the advocacy, you don't think the advocacy of young people, not just on the right, but on the left,
this is absurd. This is absurd.
Let her finish
this conversation just goes fucking nowhere. Like, Stardust spoke twice in between me speaking last time, along with fucking Supreme and Sondsol. Like, so yeah, I do use the term white supremacist terrorism. I generally use it where there's like some threat of physical violence, right? That's usually my kind of line for terrorism. And I also do recognize there's a political label. Like, I'm probably not going to call like, I don't know, like the YPG terrorists off the bat because they're fighting ISIS or whatever, right? Like, even though they're committing violence in pursuit of a political goal, because it is a political label that basically just means political violence that I don't like, right? That is bad. Otherwise, we'd be calling the state, the US state terrorist, which I think there's actually an argument for, or like any kind of police violence or whatever. It's all terrorism, right?
So, yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Stardust.
It's fine. I just think all I was going to say was that you can call them young adults, but you're influencing young people whose brains are not fully developed yet to go and do things on both sides, by the way, that are going to ruin lives on the left and on the right. It's literally, these are actions that will ruin their futures if they take them out to the extreme. I don't see how you can advocate for those types of things and not see how harmful that is.
And setting up a young Republicans club in your university is one of those things that ruins lives.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
I mean, there is already like a significant amount of barriers to marginalized people entering higher education.
There's already been young Republican groups in those universities. In my university, it was already there. It already existed, and they should exist because I believe in everybody's right to freedom of speech. And I don't agree with your assessment that people on both sides are the assessment of you that this is harmful and harmful enough to justify the ruining of people's futures. These are kids. Your brain is not fully developed until you're 25.
So if somebody's under 25, we should just allow them to do
I don't think you should be encouraging people under 25 to go and ruin their lives and ruin their futures.
Don't go ruin your lives and ruin your futures.
Yeah, well, when you're advocating for people to smash things up and do violent activities, that's what you're advocating for.
I gotta hop out. I love you all. Hey, listen, I can't get behind a lot of what you're saying, Viv, because I feel like the things that can come out of the things that you're saying are really, really damaging to left-leaning causes. I really like left-leaning causes. I really hate fascism.
I love left-leaning causes.
I love
great.
All right. But my thing, But my thing is like I ultimately think that when really I gotta go. I don't want to like get like
okay, but I do want to respond to this. It'll be quick.
Yeah, I'll let you respond. I just want to say like I feel like the things that I've been seeing on the left, especially in the past like couple of months, all right, have been really damaging for left-leaning causes because of misinformation. That's why I got super triggered and came in here. I feel like the advocation for violence is really gross. I'm really don't like violence. I really don't like militias. I don't like anybody walking around with fucking guns. Yeah,
I agree.
That sort of
violence is fucking awful.
Yeah, but I don't think that violence on our side towards the other side is acceptable in the same way that violence on their side towards us is acceptable. All right, I'll catch you guys later. All right.
See ya.
Wait.
Good luck.
Oh, okay. Wait. You're right.
So just before you go, right? I want you to put yourself in my shoes for half a fucking second, okay? And understand that what you've just said about my fucking views on this, right? I also feel about getting fucking Nazis up on your platform to debate. I think that's incredibly fucking harmful to the left. I think it puts people in danger, right? I think that's a really fucking dumb thing to do. And there are a lot of people on this platform that do that shit, including yourself, right? Who I understand your position. Who I have decent relationships with, right? So like, I guess basically what I'm saying is like, I wouldn't want this conversation to like ruin a relationship or whatever. I think we both come from fundamentally the same kind of place.
Exactly.
I'm trying to decide whether to make the snarky comment or the sensible comment.
I mean, you can.
We just come at it from different angles.
Yeah, okay. I agree. I think that fundamentally we do have that same baseline of we want to make people's lives better, but I just feel like I
want to reduce violence as much as possible. Yeah, I want to get rid of fascism and support civil rights. Yeah.
Love you guys. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. All right.
See ya.
Okay, catch you later. Bye. Zarel, what did you have to say for yourself?
Well, it seems to have. The ratio seems to have equalized now to not be as much of a dogpiling, because part of the really fucking annoying things with these sort of conversations is when dogpiles happen. Okay, forget dogpiles, but like even just like, you know, at 3 versus 1, the one person on that end is going to, like, everyone who does speaking on Twitch in general, we all know that like these sorts of conversations, whether we admit it or not, take a toll on a person's ability to keep talking and all that sort of stuff. And so typically when we have like a 3 versus 1 situation, the one person in this case is going to feel like trying harder.
5v1 at one point.
I mean, yeah.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, I could have done more to moderate it, but there's 2 reasons I didn't. One, I'm busy playing PUBG trying to get some dubs, and secondly, I don't agree with you, Viv. So it was, no, I don't really mean that last one. Okay.
I tried to keep myself muted for certain portions of it, but I just wanted to be able to contribute at some point. So.
Yeah, no.
Fine. Yeah, no. It's
look.
Like,
I'm sorry if I got rude towards you or anybody else. I
think you should have been more rude to Supreme, honestly, but there we go.
Well, I mean, I love Supreme. He's a good friend.
Yeah. The reason I mention this is that obviously there's no malice. Well, at least it feels like a very safe assumption that there's no actual malice or intentional malice or anything behind that. However, it does, like, what always ends up happening is in, like, let's say a 5 versus 1, the one ends up saying something that could be, like, you know, misinterpreted, and it's jumped upon by, like, you know, every other party, and then as a re-clarification is starting to get eked out, specifically with the TPUSA point, like, I got what Viv was trying to say. I understood how it was misinterpreted.
I should have mentioned TPUSA as well. Fuck. That's a way better example than the America First stuff. It was just America First was the first group I thought of, but yeah, TPUSA are doing the same shit with Young Republicans clubs, obviously. It's like basically their whole deal.
Like, it was at that point I was just like, Chud, bring me and I'll fucking, like, come on, I understand, I can clear this whole thing up. And typically it's a case of, like, you know, we'll do this thing of like, oh yeah, would you like to re-clarify? And then, you know, the other person re-clarifies, and then and then the re-clarification tends to get ignored.
Just doesn't get accepted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even feel like it. I don't even feel like I said anything significantly different the second time from the first time. It's just like, you know, the clarification to like expound upon what I said, yeah, so that it couldn't be interpreted in the way that it was being interpreted, which is like I don't know. I feel like people get very impassioned in these conversations, and they become very uncharitable to the point where like people who I know and get on with and who know me seem to think that I would like make a statement as fucking dumb as every single like Republican group in the United States is set up by some far right organization. Like, okay, it
so
really
it
does upset me.
I wasn't saying that. What I read from what you were saying was that you were saying that there's this large amount of groups that are being set up. The only reason I got heated is because I felt like you were being rude to me. So, and I feel like I asked for a clarification. Yeah, I feel like I asked for clarification. I asked you to clarify. You didn't want to clarify, but then when you did, I was like, fine, you know? But I do find though the idea of saying that you are not for violence yet advocating people to go smash things is kind of contradictory, right?
I don't think that smashing something is the same as physical violence.
Okay.
Especially if it's something that like isn't, because like I could understand the argument if I was like, go and smash all their food and like their car and their computer so that they can't like go and get more money or groceries or whatever, right? I don't know, like try and starve them out with a siege like that. You know, you don't have to lay a hand on somebody to be yeah, I mean, it is violence in the loosest possible sense.
It's it's enough violence to get them into trouble, though, right? It's enough violence to get either side into trouble and potentially ruin a future.
And I think that the presence of young Republican clubs, especially the ones that are like particularly further right, is enough to ruin lives as well. I think the hostile atmosphere that it creates on campus, and to be honest, like I care far more about fucking like marginalized people who already have trouble accessing higher education than I do about some fucking dipshit conservative white kid. Right?
You don't think that there are minorities in those groups too, though?
Probably, yeah. But I mean, if we still have to take action against like right-wing groups, right? Whatever action you think that is, even if it's just debating them, right? You'd still have to take action against those groups, regardless of like any quislings being present within them.
I don't see this hostile thing though. Like at my university, there was, and obviously this is just anecdotal, but like there was no hostility between young Republicans and young Dems. Like it's just not something that was there. Yeah, opposite viewpoints, but I just don't see what hostile environment you're talking about. People generally on university campuses are pretty progressive, even if they are conservative, right? So
at my campus, we had a whole load of stickers being planted around, being like trans women and not real women and shit like that, right?
Okay, yeah, that's shitty. Yeah,
and like a shitload of fucking TERF stickers all over the fucking place, right? This creates a hostile environment for trans people at the university. They feel unsafe and so on, right? And speaking as a trans person, like you're already worried about like potential physical violence from people just based on them seeing you and clocking you as trans, right? That shit, like that's always in the back of your mind that can happen because it does pretty regularly happen that you get aggression.
Okay.
And sometimes physical violence for that. So like the furtherance of this hostile environment, like I think is a barrier to marginalized people's education for sure. It creates added stress at a very stressful time in their life. and it might just make them not want to go to university at all anymore.
So because
Like-
of this one, because every university has a different environment, right? So because
course it
there are
does.
certain ones that have this very hostile environment, you're using that to justify the taking down of any young Republicans group.
I'm saying that if you are lucky enough to be at one of those universities that has an extraordinarily progressive environment, and you as a marginalized person feel completely safe and happy at that university, right? And you're not worried about experiencing bigotry on campus, then I would say, one, you're extremely lucky, and I'm really glad that you've managed to find that place for yourself. But two, you should be very wary of any potential threat to that paradigm. Like, you don't want that to change.
Okay.
And a Young Republicans Club is definitely a threat to that paradigm.
So would you be okay with campuses banning mosques after 9/11?
Banning mosques
or
after
not banning
9/11?
mosques, but banning Muslim groups after 9/11, like banning them from
Depends.
assembling.
No, because 9/11 wasn't committed by Muslims. It was committed by a very specific ideology.
An
And I think
ideology that was
I think
Muslim, though, right?
equating-
A Wahhabist
equating-
ideology, right?
I think equating Muslims to the ideology of fucking Al Qaeda would be an incredibly fucking racist assessment. Or
Well, you don't
I
think
don't know
that
if you'd call it racist, but bigoted assessment.
you
Wait,
don't
can I
think
just jump
that
in real quick?
you don't think that attributing all conservative thought to far right thought is a bit I don't know, charitable?
I think that there's a significant difference between like Muslims and Wahhabism and conservatives in the United States and the far right. I think one is much closer to its counterpart than the other. I like the average fucking conservative in terms of like a GOP representative, right? Is much closer to the far right than your average Muslim is to fucking like accelerationist jihadism. Like,
Okay. I think that the average Muslim is, yes, very far away from Wahhabist Islam for sure, but I also am of the belief that the average conservative is pretty far away from Nazism or white nationalism or any of these far right ideologies.
White supremacy?
Yeah.
How about white supremacy?
Yeah.
Do you think that the average conservative is like supportive of Black Lives Matter, for example?
Probably not the organization, because they don't
Okay.
understand.
Do you think that
They don't
do you think that the
understand generally the average person doesn't understand how each chapter is different, right? So
Sure. Do you think that the average conservative is supportive of trans rights in general? Don't have to be particularly informed on it, but do you think they're like
I think it depends. I would say like maybe half and half.
half and half?
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the fucking state of the GOP and stuff, I do find that very difficult to believe, but sure.
There are a lot of people in the GOP who happen to be trans. So
Yeah, Quislings exist everywhere. Just because the leader of the Proud Boys happens to be an Afro-Cuban, that doesn't mean that they are not like a fascist street gang.
okay.
Okay, I think. Listen, sorry, it's like 4 a.m. for me. So I think we'll have to draw things to a close on this conversation. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm probably gonna dip out soon. So thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks for coming on, Stardust. Thanks for coming on, Viv. Thanks for coming on, Zarel. Thanks to everyone else. And I'll.
Yeah, thanks for the backup, Zarel. Yeah, you're done good. Okay.
I know. I know it's sarcastic. I'm sorry. By the time I joined in, it was.
Well, no, it wasn't sarcastic. I was being serious. All right. I
no.
appreciate the consideration. I do.
Okay,
Files are
right.
difficult to deal with sometimes. I'm big and strong.
Even though I didn't do much.
Okay.
You did great.
Have a good one, everyone. Catch you later. Bye bye.
See ya. Have a good one.